Hello tanks and tankettes, and welcome to a pair of viewer replays. In fact, a pair of very good viewer replays. And they both are in Chinese light tanks. And this is one of the reasons why I picked them out, because I've not featured a huge number of Chinese light tank games. But the fact that they are together is, well, partly it's because it's the tier 9 and 10 Chinese light tanks, and partly it's because they were uploaded quite close together. So it's a bit of a coincidence, because I watched them both, couldn't decide, just decided to do both of them, and here we are. And in a way it's quite good, because they both represent quite different styles of gameplay. And they're both very good in their own way, but whereas this one's going to be a very good, very solid, very tense at times bit of light tank gameplay, the next one is going to be spectacular. So, this is brumbarr. He's on the EU server, he's in the Omni clan, which these days I more associate with warships than anything else, but you know, they started off in tanks, of course. It's just, I play with Strangers 123 quite a lot, so yeah, in my mind I now think of Omni and warships, because they do warships as well. But, you know, there are one or two people that still play World of Tanks apparently, so... Anyway, so, he's in a tier 10 game, it's Derenberg, and it's Encounter Derenberg, so it's extra derpy Derenberg. So each side has got some tanks that have crossed the river. You know what's going to happen to them, don't you? We've also got this WZ-132, who brumbarr is looking at just now. And this guy seems incredibly intent on capping. And it's not just he's trying to put pressure on the enemy team. It's that maybe he's got a mission to cap, or maybe he just doesn't like shooting the enemy tanks. Maybe he's a Buddhist player. He only likes to win the game by capping. I'm just speculating here. So, you know, more on that guy later. So, these are the enemy tanks that have pushed up this far, and, well, you can kind of guess what's coming, because they are rather outnumbered. They don't really have good defensible positions, and they don't really have backup. So, because brumbarr's team has the superiority in numbers, you know, it's simple arithmetic here, they're going to easily clean these guys up. There was a prot and a Type 4 heavy, a Type 5 heavy rather, that crossed as well, but they're back at the bridge still, so they can pull back across the bridge or try and hold that bridgehead if need be. However, there's a more immediate problem in that the enemy team came very close to capping there, and brumbarr was making a mad dash, but fortunately, the Stridswagen 103 managed to kill the enemy 1390 that was also capping. However, that 132 does still have a fair few points, so if they can't reset him, brumbarr's going to be stuck here blocking the cap. He does at least, however, have something to shoot at right now. So he's had one shot on the T28 side. The Type 5 Heavy, well, there's no dice there, and it's at this point, well, actually the WZ's backed out of the cap, and it's because their own 1390 has gone hell for leather, screaming through the cap, round the houses, and managed it all without losing a single hit point. Which is the kind of thing you would maybe more associate with people in, you know, a Lux or an ELC, but this time around it's somebody in a 1390. So that kind of worked out for him, but it might have been more luck than judgment, and the reason I say that is down to what this 1390 is going to do next. Now, I think maybe he had in mind he would finish off the T28 prot, which he's going to, because the guy's a one-shot, but there's still that Type 5 Heavy there, and guess what? He's got the derp gun. So, although he has taken out the prot, he's then just lost over 1,000 hit points to the Type 5. And it's not going to go very well for him, unsurprisingly. So, that's them down to just the one light tank now, and that is brumbarr himself. So, the enemy team has now pushed across the North Bridge. They took out the tanks from his own team that actually had pushed across, and they're now pushing themselves. There are a bunch of tank destroyers on the ridgeline, but a lot of them are rather beat up, and none of them particularly have great armour, apart from the 103 kind of. It has great armour if you don't have a sufficient calibre of gun. So once again, some side shots, this time into a conway, so that's a nice squashy target. And oh, he's bringing the turret round, and that misses, not by, you know, that much, but it was still a somewhat comfortable margin compared to some of the close misses I've seen. But you know, this is awkward because he doesn't have a lot of cover here, so there's only so much he can do from this position in terms of supporting his teammates, in terms of trying to take back the initiative in this game, because so far the enemy team, I mean, in the middle and the south of this map, it's been kind of a stalemate, but on the north the enemy team are starting to push. That might be where the break happens, that might be where this turns decisively in the enemy team's favour, because they're pretty even on numbers, although having said that, the enemy team has now pulled ahead. They have managed to kill more tanks. So Brumbarr decides he's not hanging around in the middle anymore. He wants to actually go and try and do something about these tanks to the north there, but unfortunately in the process takes a big old hit from the conway. So this is a bit dicey, but he knows the conway isn't in great shape. The T-62A, we know, has lost some health. The Object 140 we're not so sure about, but I guess we'll see. And bear in mind, you know, this has a 320 average damage per shell. It's not bad. It doesn't have great gun depression, however. I mean, it's not completely terrible. It's, I think, something like -5. But the fact that he doesn't have great AP penetration is maybe why he's now onto his APCR. Not that it's necessary for this conway, of course. So where he is right now is not too bad in terms of the Stridsvagen being able to support him, but he was maybe a little, like, he didn't just peek around that corner. He was maybe aiming to go around that corner and unexpectedly ran into the conway. And of course the conway, having shot him and spotted him, has now given his position away for the T-62A. But he gets rather lucky there, is able to finish off the T-62A with an auto-aim shot, and so has managed to avoid death for just a little bit longer. The 140 has unfortunately, however, taken out one of the few remaining allied tanks, the last Scorpion G, so that just leaves the Stridsvagen and the IS-7. And the IS-7's actually charged down the Type 5 Heavy. And the Stridsvagen is theoretically on that little hill in a position to help both the IS-7 and Brumbarr, but of course he can only turn one direction at a time. So right now he's trying to help out Brumbarr, and in a way he's helping out himself as well, because it means they won't get things coming down from to their north. Now that 140 had actually dropped down to go around the side and maybe surprise Brumbarr, but he himself got surprised and taken out, so that's rather useful. But once again we've come perilously close to being capped, and I can't really fault Brumbarr for not noticing how close the timer was getting, because he was a little bit occupied. Now it was very lucky he was able to hit that shot. I mean, you know, he had the auto-aim, and it's not a bad gun in terms of its handling, in terms of its bloom, in terms of the aim time, but even so, you know, you take a shot like that on the move, and it's not a guaranteed thing at all. So I'm not sure if he would have been able to get in the cap in time, but either way, he's gotten the reset. So the 132 peaks, and not in a particularly good way. I mean, the 132 being there was quite lucky for Brumbarr. If he'd been over on the other side of the bridge still, you know, there's no way he would have made that shot if he was hiding behind a building. But the 132 was maybe thinking that he would be able to get some shots up at the ridge line where Brumbarr previously was, and in doing so exposed himself to being shot at. Now the IS-7 has died. I think he helped take out the enemy Scorpion G, but it was not maybe the best move going in against that Type 5 Heavy and trying to face hug him or whatever he was doing. It would have been better, I would have said, to have stayed at range, waited for his allies to get done with what they were doing, and then maybe, you know, try and overwhelm the guy with numbers. But as it was, he was the one that got taken down. So he took a shot himself at the 132, but it was forcing him to go the other way that let the Stridswagen take him out. And the Stridswagen, you know, he's done very well. Brumbarr would be probably not able to do this on his own without the backup of this Stridswagen. So this is, you know, this is good for both of them. The Stridswagen has somebody to use as eyes, and Brumbarr has a very, very powerful gun backing him up. So it's, you know, mutual benefit. So he opens up the angle. The Type 5 knows the Stridswagen's up on that ridgeline somewhere. Maybe the Stridswagen even got spotted, and that means that Brumbarr can get to a position where, well, he gets the first shot. Obviously, you know, he completely gets the drop on the guy, but after that, the Type 5 now has started trying to angle, and he's actually trying to, I think, get behind a building as well, because unsurprisingly, Brumbarr is, you know, firing APCR at this guy. Against the flat side armor, the AP might work, but it's, I think, 220 average with the AP. So for this kind of very tight situation, yeah, you would reach for the premium ammo, because this is where it counts. So unfortunately, the Stridswagen is dead. That might have been a snapshot from the Type 5. It's not entirely clear, but with that last shot he took, he clearly got himself spotted. And although the Type 5 is now a one-shot, that's true for Brumbarr too. And of course the Type 5's derp gun, it doesn't matter if he hits one of the better armoured parts of the tank. Not that the 132A has a lot of armour, comparatively speaking, but this Type 5 is completely tied down by his immobility, and Brumbarr, well, absolutely isn't. So again, he opens up the angle, fires from an unexpected direction, uses his superior view range, and takes out the Type 5. But we're not done yet. There's still an S1 left in play, and he was last spotted over here, and that's exactly where he is. Now this is either somebody who is extremely passive or has gone AFK, and Brumbarr's unwilling on 118, 119 hit points, whatever that is, to just pop out in front of his gun and take the risk. No, so he spots and reacquires, fires, gets spotted. This guy's not reacting. Yeah, he's AFK. So this is a stroke of luck, because they didn't have this guy to deal with at the end, when it would have been, you know, one extra tank actually firing its gun would have made a difference. But for whatever reason, this Stridswagen had to leave the game. And so, although it's a bit of an anticlimactic ending, you can't say it was a bad game, though. You definitely can't say it was a bad game. It was a very, very good game. So that, unsurprisingly, was an Ace Mastery, an All-Ex medal, High Caliber, Defender, Tank Sniper, and a Confederate medal with 6,500 almost damage done and another 1,500 assistance. Unsurprisingly, it was the Stridswagen 103 in second place with 4 kills and 4,400 damage, again, very nearly. And there were one or two other decent tanks. You know, that 1390 that just ran himself aground on a Type 5 actually did over 2k damage, but there were also some tanks on the team that really didn't do a lot. So, yeah, this is one of those team lists where it really is quite unbalanced. But overall, that was a very good match from Brumbarr, and, you know, he kept his nerve. He used repositioning when it mattered to great effect, and was able to work with that Stridswagen to nail that win. So from that last game in the tier 9, we go to this in the tier 10. This is Ryan Cooper in the WZ-132-1, and this is going to have a rather different character to it. Now, I think partly that's the map, but also, of course, it's going to be because this is a different player with a different play style. But you really, like, even if he was trying to play the same way that we saw in the last game, that kind of rather patient approach, that's not really going to work, because it's a rather different map. It's constructed differently. It doesn't present the same opportunities. So they've got quite an even spread of tanks, it looks like, in this initial deployment. There's a few things on this side, and there's kind of a spread right across the middle. But, well, Stalingrad and... oh, hello. That's autoloader. Don't want to sit in front of that. Yeah, this map is one of those ones where you tend to get unequal masses of teams meeting. And in this case, the unequal mass of the enemy team is on the other side, and so it looks like they are pushing through and encircling those tanks that are there, because they're not really grouped up together. They're not really able to position each other. I mean, the VKB and the STB, for instance, are cut off from the ST1, the T50. The T10 is further along still. Can't really pop out to... I don't think he can even get out into the square from that position. I'm not entirely sure. But either way, they're just getting taken apart. And the enemy team's just rolling through them bit by bit. So if they're going to make a counter push, it's going to have to be from this side, because the other side is just crumbling rapidly. On this side, well, it was the PTA that was here. But he was alone, and so they've easily dealt with him. But there's also a couple of other tanks to their immediate west that need to be taken out. But the problem with this map is, you know, it's not a huge map, all in all. It's not that difficult to get from where the enemy team are to where the remains now of Ryan Cooper's team is. And, you know, there are already tanks trickling across. So this is already not looking good. It's 5-8. I mean, he's already done over 2,000 damage, but yeah, this is now looking like it's going to be a bit of a scramble to actually try and survive and win. It's going to take quite a lot of hard work. So they're down to now just 4 tanks here, and somehow the VKB is still alive on the other side because it's a VKB, I guess. I mean, they didn't mob it quite as hard as maybe they needed to. And so I think he's done a bit of damage. Yeah, he's got 1 kill. He's managed to take something else out, but you know, he's not going to survive. Meanwhile, yeah, I don't know what that lightweight was doing. It's not like the 57 heavy had a lot of hit points left, but somehow he managed to just, you know, completely die. So there's that. So yeah, I mean, they're doing what they can, but their backs are really against the wall, and every moment longer they take is you know, a bit closer that the enemy tanks are getting across to them. You know, the Type 4 is going to take a while to get here, but the T50 won't. The VKB's already sort of halfway across, but maybe he was in a more side-scraping position. And although he was able to deal with that T95, which is not particularly good on this map, well, it's not particularly good on most maps, but it's very easy to outflank a slow-moving machine like the T95, so... Anyway, so now it's just him and a Stridswagen. This time it's the Tier 10 Stridswagen. There's a lot of kind of similarities going on between these two games. You know, you've got the Type... Well, this time it's Type 4 Heavy and a higher tier Swedish tank destroyer. But, you know, there's parallels. And maybe he'll be able to work together with this guy to you know... no, never mind. I mean, the guy tried to rush this E4, but unfortunately died to the VKB from behind. And now it's just Ryan Cooper. And it's not looking good. I mean, they've taken the enemy team down to just 4 tanks, but he's here in his light tank. And severely outnumbered, so how on earth could he possibly walk away from this? Well, it helps that he has a 390 average damage gun. He's got basically a medium tank, 105 mil, and so he's able to destroy that VKB in 2 hits. He's already done a solid bit of damage to the T110E4, and it helps that he apparently is firing HE. So that's the Skoda dealt with, but there's still the E4 and a Type 4 Heavy. Now he tries to juke him a bit there. It's a little bit risky. I think maybe he... I mean, you wouldn't try and reverse around, so I'm not quite sure why he made that pause there, but possibly the Type 4 has a damaged ammo rack, or, you know, one of the shots took out a loader, but I think the Type 4 also just has a relatively long reload anyway, because, you know, it's a big gun. It's, what, 155 mil gun, I want to say? I think it is. So the noose is tightening. He's not got any health left to take hits, and unfortunately he's just been spotted, because he was obviously trying to use this low ground to reposition, come out round from behind them, and perform the surprise butt sex, as Jingles might term it. But as he's been spotted, you know, that plan is a bit blown. And it must be concerning that he keeps getting spotted but isn't spotting what's spotting him. So there's the E4, nice shot into the side armour. It's not particularly, you know, it's not that well armoured compared to the E3, and also if you're just going to give people your side armour, that helps. But unfortunately that hit doesn't do anything. Then the Type 4 appears, and that's not so good. We don't know which gun he has. Having said HE before, actually it might have been the Type 4 that was firing HE. I didn't quite catch it because there was such a lot happening at once. But either way, the E4 is now dead. And that's largely because he didn't try to side scrape, which he could have because the E4 has a turret. And even though it doesn't have particularly great side armour, you know, you still could have side scraped against Ryan Cooper's tank, and possibly he would have lived, at which point Ryan Cooper would have been in trouble. But as it is, he makes his getaway despite the Type 4 having 2 opportunities to fire at him. So, full health Type 4 heavy, very low health 132-1. And at this point, it's kind of on the Type 4, because it's not like Ryan can actually, you know, take him head on. He has to make the Type 4 commit to doing something. The Type 4 either has to go and try and cap, or he has to defend his own cap, and then either way Ryan Cooper can use his ponderous nature against him and hopefully outplay him. And this is not a bad map for that. If Ryan picks the right spot, he can just get the guy to, you know, chase him round a building, or he can keep popping up at unexpected angles. You know, he does have a reasonable amount of time. Most of the team died in the first 4 minutes, and it's only now that it's turning into quite a drawn-out thing. And potentially he could even try and cap himself, but he doesn't seem inclined to want to do that. And it's a little bit of a risky play, because the Type 4, although it's slow, you know, a direct path from where he was to here, maybe he could do it in time, but, you know, that would have been the safe play. So if we could make any criticism of Ryan Cooper here, it's the safe thing to do to secure this win and that spectacular 4 versus 1 fight that he got himself into. Yeah, you know, this is risky, but he has at least, you know, I'm guessing done what he wanted to do and made this guy commit, and the Type 4 was closer to this cap, so that seems like the logical choice. So basically he's circled around the map, he's gotten the drop on this Type 4, but of course you're only going to get the first shot. And although he does track the guy, I don't know why the guy didn't sort of immediately repair, he tarries just a little bit too long for the second shot and gets a very lucky bounce. And at this point, he sees he's able to actually approach undercover, and he takes the ultra risky option. Now he's already bounced 1 shell, and question is, if the Type 4 manages to compensate for this jinking around, can his turret bounce another one? And it does! And this Type 4 is now screwed, basically. And although this was not the sensible option, it was the spectacular one, and he made it work. It would have been hilarious, though, if he'd miscalculated, rammed into the Type 4 and blown his own tank up. You know, it would have been a bit of a face plant after what would have still been a really good victory. But as it was, it turned into an amazing victory, because 8,600 damage done. Radley-Walters, again a defender, high caliber, just that was explosive stuff. Literally, he killed quite a lot of the enemy team, did quite a lot of damage, and came out of situations that, you know, you would not have given him any good odds of surviving from. And so, while the first game was a very technically good game, this one was undoubtedly the more entertaining game. But this is why I put them together, because sometimes there's that tendency when you're doing YouTube videos to only pick out the entertaining ones and ignore the ones that you can learn from. And I think you can learn from both of these, but you know, undoubtedly we could say Ryan Cooper had a lot more luck than Brumbarr did. Brumbarr created and tried to control the situations where he could, especially towards the end where it became just a few tanks versus a few tanks. And to some extent, you know, Ryan Cooper was doing that as well, but he also had some very lucky bounces that might have ended him. He also took the high risk option when he might have taken the safe option and capped. And yeah, it's just kind of lucky that it worked out. Although having said that he capped, was there enough of a gap that wouldn't have been a draw? I might be making things up there. I don't know. I might have to go back and check that. But you know, either way, it was spectacular. I mean, it really was. It was absolutely thrilling stuff, and this is why, even though I don't play a lot of World of Tanks myself these days, I still enjoy watching replays like this, because that was amazing. So hopefully you enjoyed the both of these, and if you did, you can hit that like button, you can leave any comments below, you can sub to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, stay tuned for more.